This is Kevin Donahue with Protiviti, welcoming you to a new edition of Powerful Insights. We are producing a series of podcasts on GRC programs and technologies, obtaining perspectives from Protiviti leaders and subject matter experts around the world on GRC drivers, innovations, and challenges in their markets. This episode features my conversation with Matthew Landers, an associate director with Protiviti based in Denver, who offers his viewpoints on GRC developments and advancements in the United States. Matt, thanks for joining me. Great to speak with you.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate the time and opportunity to talk to you.
So, Matt, to kick things off here, what are the GRC drivers you're seeing in the marketplace right now?
Well, Kevin, from a U.S. perspective, we continue to see, the traditional sort of bread and butter GRC staples, your SOX, your internal audit, and your enterprise risk, as being sort of those are continuing to be, very, very common in basic needs from a GRC perspective. That said, we are seeing more and more, and especially larger organizations, especially large financial organizations, focusing more on using GRC platforms for regulatory compliance and IT risk management activities. The increase in those use cases for more, deeper regulatory compliance mapping and IT risk management actually works really well. Because we, as a GRC practice, we have the capability, the knowledge to stand up those platforms, and we can also bring in and leverage our Protiviti subject matter experts that work day to day in those areas of the business. Our regulatory mapping team, our IT risk management teams, they can help develop our clients' methodology and create a process and approach which we can then stand up in a GRC solution. I think in summary, there's really sort of two things that would push a client towards needing a GRC or moving towards a GRC solution, and one would be the size and complexity of that use case. For example, a small public company with 2 or 3 locations, they could probably complete their SOX and internal audit requirements through brute force using things like SharePoint or the Microsoft suite of applications, Excel or Word. That said, they certainly would benefit from a GRC solution, but they may not need it. As a company gets bigger, right, multiple international locations, different GRC activities, audit, SOX, IT risk management, things like that. There's sort of a tipping point that, hey, they need to go and be go to a GRC solution to get some of the efficiencies that they might be looking for, where Excel and Word kind of fall apart. The other piece would be standardization. From a multidisciplinary GRC effort, we often see clients that have various different stakeholders, those same sort of players: audit, SOX, operational risk, IT risk, regulatory compliance, vendor management. A lot of times they're sort of operating in silos, and the organization is looking to get a single view of risk and compliance activities across the organization. And one way to do that is to move towards implementing a GRC solution. It often gives them a way to align processes and methodologies and leverage data that each of the groups might be using.
Oh, that's a great rundown. Thanks, Matt. It actually offers a good segue to my next question for you. What are the key tools that you are implementing in the U.S. market right now around GRC?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. There's a variety of tools that we've been working with the Protiviti U.S. team. Our governance portal is one of the solutions, especially from a SOX and audit perspective, that we continue to use. We're also working with Archer. RSA Archer is a very common tool, and we have a number of different teams implementing that. We're also seeing Thomson Reuters, their Risk Connect solution, rebranded recently, is another solution that we're working with actually right now with a client. One other one that's been becoming more and more popular is ServiceNow. Traditionally, a IT ticketing system. The vendor has actually done a lot to improve their overall GRC capabilities and moving well beyond their traditional ticketing system approach, having vendor risk and IT risk capabilities that we're seeing a lot of clients move towards that, and we have sandboxes where we're helping clients sort of design and implement their IT risk activities in ServiceNow. We do see other vendors in the market, some of the larger ones that are kind of commonplace. Open Pages to a lesser extent. We've seen a lot of clients where we haven't directly implemented that. Same with Metric Stream. We see a lot of clients using that, but haven't had any direct implementation experience there. But Archer, Risk Connect, and ServiceNow would be the main ones.
And Matt, are these tools effective in pursuing integrated GRC? Because my next question to you was, what are some of the challenges with organizations that are pursuing integrated GRC in the United States?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. They can be effective in implementing integrated GRC. They just really do need to be set up right, and I think that's where Protiviti can really provide some guidance to our clients in sharing our experience of what's went right when clients are looking for multidisciplinary GRC solutions, and some pitfalls and things that we've helped our clients fix and remediate when looking at having multiple GRC activities occur in a single solution. And I think there's a couple challenges that organizations face, and one would just be aligning those GRC requirements. Whether it's in a different, whether it's in a single solution, the goal is to have everything in one solution, or it's to have allow multiple solutions. There still needs to be a sort of a common understanding, an agreement on the common taxonomies, the frameworks that are being used, the methodology and processes, even down to the data points and field on specific record types, to ensure that there's some similarity between those solutions. Things like risk assessment or issue tracking, right? Multiple, frankly, every GRC solution has a risk assessment capability and an issue tracking capability. But if the organization really wants to have enterprise reporting and track issues, they need to make sure that they're really aligning sort of fundamentally at a field level, the methodology they're using to rank issues. The process by which they track and extend due dates for issues needs to be the same. And bringing those items together is something that is frankly difficult. It's difficult in a single solution because you need to get everybody to kind of agree to play nice in the sandbox together, to leverage common things while allowing for discrete capabilities for individual solutions like audit execution or regulatory mapping that can sit within a platform that's doing SOX and risk management, but it also needs some very bespoke capabilities for audit and regulatory compliance activities. The other sort of challenge with doing that across solutions is how do you get a common reporting set? Is information kind of brought into a central data warehouse, or is there perhaps an API that pushes data into one, or pulls data from solutions into a kind of a common reporting set? So it's certainly difficult for clients to get that multidisciplinary sort of integrated GRC within either a single solution or even a little bit more so across.
Well, there is clearly a lot going on here in the market right now, which is not surprising. Matt, what sort of innovations in GRC are you seeing right now, kind of building on what you were just explaining to me?
Yeah, I think there's a couple examples of innovation. One would be we've seen and we've actually helped a couple clients actually create sort of interim or very custom solutions. I'll give you an example. We've helped a couple clients recently that one needed a risk assessment solution to help inform their audit planning and sort of drive their annual audit plan. They had a couple different GRC solutions in place, none of which really reflected their approach and the methodology they wanted to use for risk assessment. So what Protiviti did is we actually helped them kind of build a custom interim solution while they're working to sort of explore a more long-term GRC platform that could help reflect what they want to do. Another client we had from a custom perspective, we helped build a custom regulatory mapping solution. Their ultimate GRC system of choice was Archer, but the time that was going to take to be updated and configured and ready for use, didn't align with some business objectives of performing a regulatory mapping exercise. So we helped kind of build them a custom solution that was used for about 9 months as a interim solution to help them actually perform this mapping activity, and then the data was just ported into Archer as a long-term solution. So that would be one sort of innovative thing of if the complexity and needs of the business isn't achieved by an out-of-the-box GRC solution, or an out-of-the-box GRC solution that could be customized, there might be a business case to explore a more sort of custom, temporary interim solution. Another innovative thing that we're starting to see clients do more and more, and I think will continue, is the use of bots or RPA, so robotic process automation. Especially from a testing perspective, the capability of a bot to go out and take a complete population and test against that, provides clients more coverage, more accuracy and confidence in the results of testing. But that bot, whatever they're performing, right, those results shouldn't just be documented in a SharePoint list or an Excel file somewhere. We're seeing that as clients develop bots to help them perform automated testing activities, they really need to consider that bot is actually documenting the results and contextualizing it in the GRC platform of choice. And we've had a couple clients where we've explored with them, how could this bot actually log into the system and have its own ID and document and sort of put the results, so that as a reviewer, when I go to review a test, whether it's a test performed by a bot or a test performed by a human auditor, it's tracked and contextualized in the same system. And finally, the last sort of piece of or point on innovation is, I talked about, clients are often coming from already have multiple GRC systems in place, and we're starting to see this concept of what we would call a GRC ecosystem. And it's not that you have to have a single solution. If that's in place and everyone can agree to get on the same page and work in the same environment, that's great and it works well. But that concept of a GRC ecosystem allows that end customer, whether it's first line of defense or specific second line, third line folks, to have a more tailored, unique experience while using native applications. That first line user might be accessing a SharePoint list that is integrated into the issue tracking module of their GRC. So they're not logging into the GRC. They're simply going to their own SharePoint page and saying, oh, these are my open issues. I can reply to them here. And that's being fed into the GRC, so that first, second, and third line can track and understand, hey, this issue is being updated by the user, but that user's not having to go into this specific GRC system. They're using their sort of normal day-to-day activities, which often is a SharePoint. In using that concept of that GRC ecosystem to say that there's GRC data across the organization. It could be HR data, it could be audit data, it could be CRM data from a marketing team. All of that information can be housed and sourced from their unique solutions, and then brought together perhaps through reporting and something like an enterprise data mart, where you can pull and gather data from these systems to get a more holistic view.
Matt, again, great rundown on some of these innovations that are happening within the GRC tools and I guess the overall market. So one final question for you as we wrap up our discussion today. So we talked about innovations you're seeing in GRC, but then I'm also thinking about innovations happening throughout organizations. We've heard a lot about digital transformation, organizational transformation. Things are changing in the enterprise. So how are those changes, like digital transformation practices and so forth, how do you see organizations incorporating those changes into their GRC programs?
Great question, Kevin, and I think that sort of dovetails into one of my answers on innovation, which was that concept of a GRC ecosystem. That concept really allows our clients to sort of think digitally and really focus on that customer engagement. So what is that customer experience? So that might be that first line of defense person, the process owner, the control owner, just going to their SharePoint and having sort of an integrated view where they can very easily go to a dashboard or a list of remediation items or audit issues they might be assigned to. Rather than logging into a separate platform, having those things be integrated and really focusing on having that GRC application or applications being part of that enterprise digital profile. That's going to provide companies a view against taxonomies and data across the organization, and really sort of leveraging some best-of-breed technologies, really kind of focusing on what is that end user need in using those types of digital.
And Matt, one final question here: is it safe to assume that it's best for kind of call it the GRC team to be engaged early in these digital transformation initiatives or efforts underway?
I think it's certainly helpful. We've seen clients move forward with different GRC initiatives and sort of realize that there's sort of 2 or 3 different work streams all kind of exploring, hey, we need a solution and we need something, and then kind of hitting the pause button and saying, we're all moving in the same direction. We all broadly need the same thing. What is that sort of end goal that we would be looking for, and can we go about this together, and is there some benefit of sort of teaming up and aligning our efforts, especially because a lot of the information and the data is it's providing a view of risk across the organization, and whether that's IT risk, focusing on the IT areas, or vendor risk, focusing on vendors. Those IT applications, those vendors, those impact entities, businesses, and the functions that are being performed. So it needs to be accounted for, and just making sure that there's a clear organizational taxonomy is certainly helpful in making sure that you sort of justify the cost, the effort to implement a solution, and really implementing the right solution that allows you to grow and even consider maybe this function isn't going to be part of the initial implementation, but we know that this solution can grow and we can expand it.
Thanks for joining me today. Appreciated your insights into these GRC programs and innovations happening in the United States. Thank you for listening today. You can find more information and podcasts offering perspectives on GRC from around the world at protiviti.com/GRC. I also invite you to subscribe to our Powerful Insights podcast series wherever you find your podcast content.